under space forces, that any force which is moving in positive space will make different angle with respect to x, y and z axis, so that every component, whatever it is having along x, y or z, will be cos component of that respective angle. That is, your fx will be f cos of theta x, fy will be f cos of theta y, xz will be f cos of theta z. If starting point, end point and magnitude of the force is known, any force you can write in vector form by using its unit vector multiplied by its magnitude. Likewise, if suppose n number of forces are acting on point A, you can write every force depending on its starting point and end point accordingly. You can write every force in vector form. Go with the summation of I, summation of j and summation of k, so that you will get your resultant force, which is nothing but rxi, ryj and rzk. So you can find out direction of your resultant, which will be simply theta x, which will be cos inverse of rx by r. R is nothing but magnitude of your resultant, which you can find out as per our regular practice under root of summation fx square plus fy square. Up to this part we have already seen in coplanar forces, but as we are now going to deal with space forces, one more term is there, that is rz square, which is nothing but summation fz square. And corresponding angle with respect to every axis can be calculated by using this equation of cos inverse of rx by r or ry by r or rz by r. Now I think I have already told you regarding concept where you can get minus value. हे सांगितलं होतं तुम्हाला, if your angle of force is more than 90 degree with respect to positive x, y or z axis, then that particular component you will get with minus sign. सांगितलं होतं?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So up to this point we have already seen. Now I am not going to continue with this because this part we are going to cover under our practical session, where we are going to deal with concurrent space forces, where we will have one problem which will be related to experimental setup, and in that session only I will cover but एक resultant आपण काढूया concurrent space force system चा, but we will not deal with equilibrium of concurrent space force system, at least in theory lecture, because that part we are going to cover in our practical session. Wait a minute. Yes, we will find out this. Please draw the figure. See, it is always, you can say, not always predictable which axis will be given as xyz in case of your problem, because problems मध्ये बऱ्याचदा xy axis change केलेले असतात. Now here in this problem itself you can see your x is given as x is coming towards you, y is given as rightward axis which we normally take as x, and z is vertically upward. This is our positive space. Okay, so every time you need to see the direction of axis which is given in that particular problem. It varies problem to problem. This is suppose origin. Then there is one point A. These are the two cables tied at point A, which is lying on z-axis. Height of A with respect to origin is given as 4 meter. This length is also okay. Proportionate नाही झाले, फारच चुकीचं झालं, but write down the values correctly. This is also 4 meter and this is 2 meters. This point is known as B, this is C and this is point A. फिगर कळली का सगळ्यांना?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Now it is given that I will just, yes beta,
Point Z axis वर आहे का, म्हणजे का असा 3D पुढे आहे?
काय काय कुठला A पॉइंट का?
A पॉइंट हा
Z वर आहे, Z एक्सिस वर. ओरिजिन पासून 4 मीटर अबो. Now I will just write down the given data. You need not to write the word problem. Okay. The cable exerts force AB. Now this is your force AB which is there in the cable. It exerts force AB which is 100 Newton. I will write over here. It is 100 Newton. Now it is said that it is cable. So what type of force it must be taking? Nature? Yes, obviously it will be tension. So I can draw it as arrow towards each other, which is of 100 Newton magnitude. And in cable AC, it is given that force AC is of 120 Newton. So this is of 120 Newton. Now you can see from the figure that they are forming concurrent space force system at point A. It is asked to find out, it is asked to determine resultant and its direction. So it means that it is asked to find out magnitude and direction for resultant. बरोबर का?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Now we will first, always our first step, which is the most important step of space force problem, is first write down the coordinates for the points which are involved in the problem. Can you tell me for A point what are the coordinates? X, Y, Z सांगायचं मला.
0, 0, 4.
0, 0, 4. Z is your last coordinate, which is 4 meter. But X is 0, Y is 0 because it is lying on Z axis for A. B is on X axis.
4, 0,
So its Y component will be
0. Y component.
yes, it
Y
will be
0.
0. X will be
X will be
0.
4.
4.
X will be 4 because along X direction it is having 4 meters. Okay, but Y is
0.
0, and as it is lying on Z axis, Z will be Z किती येईल तो X axis वर lie करतोय म्हणजे
0.
4, 0.
yes. So it will be 4, 0, 0. Is it clear to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
हे जर एकदा नीट आलं न लिहिता तर मग पुढे प्रॉब्लेम मध्ये फक्त प्रोसेस फॉलो करायची, बाकी काहीच नाही. C point. Here is your C point, which is
4, 2,
lying
0.
on which एक minute. 1 minute. It is lying on which plane?
XY plane.
XY plane. So which coordinate must be 0?
Z coordinate.
Z will be directly 0. Now along X direction it is having 4 meter. So X
Yes.
will be 4. Along Y direction, that is parallel to Y, it is having 2 meters. So Y will be 2. And as it is lying on XY plane, its Z coordinate will be 0. बरोबर का?
Yes, ma'am.
सगळ्यांना समजलं, बाकीच्यांना जे बोलतच नाहीत काही क्लासमध्ये त्यांना पण कळलंय असं मी एक्सपेक्ट करते आणि आपण पुढे चालूया.
Yes, ma'am.
Now we are having two forces, one along FAB, one along FAC. So we need to write both the forces in vector form because it is asked to find out resultant. So if I want to write down force AB in vector form, what I need to do? Its magnitude multiplied by its unit vector. Okay, what is unit vector? Unit vector is x2 minus x1 I. Likewise, we will write. Now our x2, y2, z2 is B, and our x1, y1, z1 is A. बरोबर का? Starting point is A, end point is B.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So
Yes.
it will be 4 minus 0I plus 0 minus 0 j plus 0 minus 4k
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
अंडर रूट ऑफ घ्या हे सगळे टर्म परत खाली 4 मायनस 0 स्क्वेअर प्लस हे तर 0 येणार आहे 0 स्क्वेअर प्लस मायनस 4 स्क्वेअर solve this and tell me what you are getting as I, J and K. चला सांगा हे सॉल्व करा सगळं
मैम जे 0 है मैम
हाँ J 0 है ना
मैम 50√2i प्लस 0
असं नको मला व्यवस्थित पूर्ण व्हॅल्यू सांग 50 रूट असं काही नको सांग त्याची व्हॅल्यू सांग कॅल्क्युलेट कर
70.71
करेक्ट 70.71 I प्लस
0
0 J yes
Minus
minus
70.71.
minus 70.71 K. Are you getting this value?
Yes, ma'am.
All of you? Second set है answer?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. चलो same way please write down force AC for me. Now I will not write it. It will be 120 in bracket. Now these are my x2, x3 or you can say x3, y3, z3 and this is my x1, y1, z1. Tell me finally what you are getting as IJK. Yes, सांगता answer.
Ma'am 80i plus 40j minus 80k.
मैम 40 आया है मैम
No, 80I is correct.
Yes, ma'am. 80I.
Yes.
80I plus 40J and minus 80K. Are you getting this value?
Yes, ma'am.
सगळ्यांचं आलं का रे?
यस
Yes.
Yes,
Now these two equations are for two vectors. Now we need to find out their resultant. R bar will be equals to करा I चे component एकत्र plus plus algebraic sum हे 40 येईल and this will be minus हे आणि हे पण minus. So it will be हे दोन्ही सेमच येणार आहेत ऍक्च्युअली हे इकडे प्लस आणि इकडे दोन्ही मायनस आहेत व्हॅल्यू काय ते सांगा मला 150 ना 0.71
yes, ma'am.
150.71 प्लस आणि इथे 150.71 मायनस ओके
Yes, ma'am.
this is I. So this is nothing but my Rx, this is nothing but my Ry, and this is nothing but Rz. Can I find out magnitude of R?
Yes, ma'am. Parallel.
Yes. Kada. Under root of Rx square plus Ry square plus Rz square, and then tell me theta x, theta y. Theta z must be more than 90 degree because my Rz component is minus. सांगा मला एवढं कॅल्क्युलेट करून
मॅम 216.86 येत आहे.
Yes, ma'am.
216.86.
Yes, ma'am.
216.86 Newton is resultant. And can you tell me theta values, theta x, theta y, theta z?
मॅम मॉड घ्यायचा आहे का?
नाही बेटा, मॉड नाही घ्यायचं आहे, म्हणजेच आपला थीटा झेड मोर दॅन 90 डिग्री आला पाहिजे,
हा,
कारण आपला आर
okay.
झेड कंपोनंट मायनस आहे.
ओके मॅम.
आणि तो येणारच आहे. डाऊनवर्ड दोन्ही फोर्सेस चाललेत ए पॉइंट पासून म्हटल्यावर त्यांचा झेड कंपोनंट हा डाऊनवर्डच येणार आहे रिझल्टंटचा. It will be cos inverse of Rx by R, then Ry by R, and then Rz by R. सांगा मला व्हॅल्यूज काय आहेत.
मॅम थीटा एक्स 45.
45
46 येतो ना मॅम?
46 हा मॅम
46.
Yes, you can say 46 or 45.97 काहीतरी येतोय.
हा 45.97.
सेकंड किती येतोय सांगा. थीटा वाय
79.37. 79.37.
करेक्ट. नेक्स्ट थीटा झेड
100.629.
134.02. 134.02.
134.02. क्रॉस चेक करा हा. कोणाचं तरी 100 समथिंग आला. हे आर एक्स ची, आर वाय ची आणि आर झेड ची व्हॅल्यू बघितल्याबरोबर आपल्याला कळायला पाहिजे की कुठला थीटा मोर दॅन 90 डिग्री येणार आहे आपला. तर थीटा विच इज मोर दॅन 90 डिग्री, ऑब्वियसली इट्स करस्पॉन्डिंग कंपोनंट विल बी डेफिनेटली मायनस. इज इट क्लिअर?
Yes ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
सगळ्यांना प्रॉब्लेम समजलं?
Yes.
तुम्हाला ह्यापेक्षा टफ प्रॉब्लेम येऊच शकत नाही, कारण हेच प्रॉब्लेम सब्जेक्टिव्ह पेपरमध्ये 5 मार्कांसाठी असतं. नाउ यू आर हॅव्हिंग युअर MCQs विच आर ऑब्वियसली नॉट मोर दॅन 2 मार्क्स. तर तुम्हाला अगदीच वर्स्ट केसमध्ये इतकं टफ प्रॉब्लेम येईल. ऑर इज स्पेस फोर्सेसमध्ये फार काही येणारच नाही. इज इट क्लिअर?
Yes,
Yes
ma'am.
ma'am.
याचे सॅम्पल
Yes, ma'am.
प्रॉब्लेम्स मी अजून तुम्हाला अपलोड करेन, जसे आधीच्या याचे दिलेत तसे प्रॅक्टिससाठी, आणि हे ते सॉल्व्ह करून बघा. दॅट विल बी मोर दॅन इनफ. कारण याच्यात 4 प्रकार आहेत. येस बेटा?
थोडी येईल ना, म्हणजे एक काहीतरी विचारतील ना, म्हणजे लाईक MCQ मध्ये.
तेच मी सांगते ना, 2 मार्कांसाठी खूप रिस्ट्रिक्शन आहे. एखादाच फोर्स घेऊन तो वेक्टर फॉर्म मध्ये किंवा अशी काही मॅग्निट्यूड विचारली तरी पण एकदम सोपे त्याचे कोऑर्डिनेट्स मेन्शन केलेले आणि फक्त तुम्ही अप्लाय करावा हा फॉर्म्युला आणि इतकं काढावं एवढंच एक्सपेक्टेड, असं काहीतरी होईल ऍट द मॅक्स 2 मार्कांसाठी. ठीक आहे? प्रोसिजर सगळ्यांना समजली का? इज इट क्लिअर?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It's clear.
सो दिस इज, मी तुम्हाला 4 टाईपचे प्रॉब्लेम सांगितले होते आपल्याला सॉल्व्ह करायचे आहेत म्हणून. 4 पैकी हा पहिला प्रकार आहे. कॉन्करंट कोप्लेनर फोर्स सिस्टीम मधला, कॉन्करंट कोप्लेनर नाही, कॉन्करंट स्पेस फोर्स सिस्टीम मधला फर्स्ट टाइप आपण आता पाहिला, फाइंडिंग आर. नाउ इक्विलिब्रियम ऑफ दिस सिस्टीम वी आर गोइंग टू स्टडी अंडर प्रॅक्टिकल सेशन, सो आय एम नॉट गोइंग टू रिपीट इट ओव्हर हियर. दिस इज व्हेरी सिम्पल. इफ दिस वन इज क्लिअर, हे लगेच कळेल. Okay, now we will switch to parallel space force system. So in case of parallel space force system, it is very simple. Just like our parallel coplanar force system, now there will be parallel space force system. Now consider that if suppose such kind of plate is there, it can be a foundation, it can be base plate of foundation where some columns are resting, or likewise. If suppose this is a kind of raft foundation एक प्रकार असतो. So you consider that raft foundation is one of the type of footing or foundation in case of civil engineering. where soil strata is very weak, its safe bearing capacity is very less. In that case, such kind of raft foundation is used. So what is raft foundation? From this entire base, some vertical columns are constructed and they are having their connection entirely through this flat slab. So up till now you might have seen that slab वरती असतो आपला, पण इथे जमिनीच्या खाली पण तुम्हाला एक स्लॅब प्रोव्हाइड करून या सगळ्या कॉलमला सपोर्ट दिलेला असतो. इज इट क्लिअर? त्याला म्हणतात राफ्ट फाउंडेशन. काय फार गरजेचं नाहीये, तुम्ही त्याच्या फार डिटेलमध्ये जायची गरज नाहीये, बट इन केस ऑफ युअर प्रॉब्लेम सच काइंड ऑफ लँग्वेज कॅन बी यूज दॅट a raft foundation is supporting 4 number of columns which are carrying this much load, find their resultant and locate it with respect to असं काहीतरी प्रॉब्लेम असेल. So if suppose this is some origin, this is x, this is suppose and this is suppose z. Then some columns, if suppose they are resting on the raft foundation, it is given that suppose this column is having 100 kilonewton weight, this is carrying 80 kilonewton weight, this is suppose 120 kilonewton weight, this is suppose 95 kilonewton weight. Such kind of problem will be given and it will be asked to find out resultant for these columns, resultant force and its location on this base plate or its location on this raft foundation can be asked. So in this case, can you tell me about which axis or along which axis all your forces or all your weights
Z
are?
axis. Y axis.
It is along Y because your vertical is Y in this case. So we can directly skip summation fx. We don't require, we need not to go for summation fz because no force is along x direction or along z direction. All the forces are along y. So I can write that simply summation fy will be nothing but ry, which is nothing but r. बरोबर का?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So just like our parallel coplanar parallel force system, here also in case of space parallel force system, all the forces are along one direction, or you can say they are parallel to one single direction. So two equations you can directly skip, like here in this case I can skip these two equations and directly can write summation fy is ry, which is r. So now if suppose these are the downward weights or point loads which are transferred by columns, and if it is asked to find out their suppose it is asked to find out their resultant and to locate it. आता हे जे काही सॅम्पल म्हणून घेतले ना आपण, याला सॉल्व करून बघूया. विल इट बी ओके?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
ओके, सॅम्पल म्हणून घेतलं पण आपण हे सॉल्व करून मग मी एक प्रॉब्लेम तुम्हाला प्रॅक्टिस साठी देते. So if suppose these are the 4 columns and consider that this is suppose 5 meter length along z and this is 4 meter length along x. Can you tell me how to start with the problem? We know that directly your summation fy equation is required. So first we can write down our first equation. Summation fy is equal to ry, which is equal to r. So it will be minus 120, minus 80, minus 95 and minus 100. बरोबर का?
Yes, ma'am.
सांगा मला किती येते व्हॅल्यू ऑल टुगेदर, मायनस किती येतात टोटल?
minus 395.
Minus 395.
395. Okay. So what minus sign indicates?
Downward direction.
Downward direction.
Downward direction. बरोबर का? So if I will now say that on this plate, suppose my resultant is somewhere here with magnitude 395 Newton. in the downward direction. Now just like these 4 columns which are resting on this raft foundation at the corners, if suppose I will consider that intersection point of my resultant on this raft, on this base is at x meter from z axis, and with respect to x axis it is z meters. Can I consider this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it clear? इथपर्यंत समजतंय सगळ्यांना? Now my aim is to locate my 395 Newton force, which is my resultant on this base plate. Can you tell me what is our theorem or equation which help us to locate the resultant?
Varignon's
Varignon's theorem. Now here in this case, instead of one single point, now we are going to take movement about an axis. If suppose I will write equation for Varignon as algebraic sum of movement of all the forces about the z axis, I will call it either it as zz, or I can call it as origin पासून z म्हणजे oz. Okay, it is up to oz किंवा zz असं त्याला आपण म्हणतो. Will be equals to movement of same resultant force about zz or oz. बरोबर का? Okay, समजतंय?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Now when I am taking movement of all the forces about this z axis or oz axis, just now you need to visualize or imagine. Just imagine that you are standing over here in front of z axis and you are looking towards origin. इथे उभे आणि origin कडे बघताय. Can you tell me? एकदम assume करा हा. आता हे तुम्हाला assume करायचं. तुम्ही इथे उभे आणि origin कडे बघताय. I am going to take movement of all the forces about this OZ axis now. Can you tell me whether 80 kilonewton force will create any kind of rotational effect of this raft foundation about OZ axis?
No, ma'am.
No. Why?
Perpendicular distance.
Because line of action of 80 kilonewton force is passing through OZ axis. Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
It
Yes,
is
ma'am.
okay. So it will create zero rotational effect. Can you tell me whether 120 kilonewton force will create any kind of rotational effect of this raft foundation about this OZ axis?
No, ma'am.
No.
No, ma'am.
Again, 120 Newton is also passing through my OZ axis, so it will not create any kind of rotational effect. So first two तर zeros झाले माझे. Now I will talk about this downward 95 kilonewton. About this OZ axis, whether this 95 downward will try to rotate my raft foundation?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Correct? It will try to rotate in which sense?
Clockwise.
Clockwise.
Clockwise. So it must be written with plus sign. So it is plus 95 into what is perpendicular distance between axis and line of action?
4 meter.
4 meter.
4.
Is it clear to all? हे सगळ्यांना समजलं का?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay. Next is 100 kilonewton. About this OZ axis, whether my 100 kilonewton will also try to rotate in clockwise sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
So it must be again plus, and it will be 100, and movement arm is again same 4 meters. Can I say that it is equal to my resultant is also on the right hand side of OZ axis and it is also downward, so it will also try to rotate the given raft in clockwise sense. So can I write it as R is equal to 395, which is magnitude, multiplied by its perpendicular distance along x direction, that is x. Can I find out x?
Yes, ma'am.
काढा, सांगा मला काय व्हॅल्यू होती. आता ही इमॅजिनरी प्रॉब्लेम आहे त्याच्यामुळे काही पण व्हॅल्यू.
2 meters.
1.97.
म्हणजेच 2 meters.
आर यू गेटिंग दिस व्हॅल्यू?
Yes, ma'am.
सगळ्यांना हे समजलं का? हे सांगा मला आधी. इज इट क्लिअर? ओके.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Now I want distance of resultant with respect to OX axis. आता मी इथे उभी आहे आणि बघते ओरिजिन कडे. जस्ट यू नीड टू इमॅजिन. ओके, यू आर लुकिंग ओव्हर हिअर. आता तुमच्या लेफ्ट हँड साईडला ही सगळी राफ्ट फाउंडेशनची प्लेट आहे. कॅन यू टेल मी अबाउट दिस XO or OX axis whether this 100 Newton force will create any kind of rotation
No, ma'am.
for this plate? No, because 100 Newton itself is passing through OX axis. What about this 80 kilonewton force? Will it create any kind of rotational effect about this OX axis?
No.
No, ma'am.
No, because 80 kilonewton is also passing through your OX axis. What about this 95? What type of rotational effect it will create about OX?
Anti-clockwise.
Anti-clockwise.
Anti-clockwise. बरोबर? So can I write my equation now? Algebraic sum of moment of all the forces about OX must be equal to moment of resultant about OX. So it will be minus 95. And what is perpendicular distance of 95 with respect to OX axis?
5 meter.
5 meter. So it is nothing but my moment arm. What is next? 120 kilonewton about OX will again create
Anti-clockwise.
anti-clockwise rotational effect. So I can write it with minus sign. Minus 120 into perpendicular distance is same 5 meter. Okay, will be equals to, again my resultant is also downward. So about OX axis it will also try to rotate the plate in anti-clockwise sense. So it will be minus 395 multiplied by perpendicular distance is Z. बरोबर आहे का?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell me what value of Z you are getting now?
3.164.
3
2.72.
2, ma'am.
2.72.
2.72. Please cross check. सगळ्यांचे येत आहे का सेम आन्सर 2.72
Yes.
मीटर्स?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. 2.72.
सगळ्यांना प्रॉब्लेम समजलं का ते सांगा मला आधी. इज इट क्लिअर टू ऑल?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
This
ma'am.
is how you find out resultant for parallel space force system. एकदम एक दोन छोटे छोटे फोर्सेस गिव्हन असतील आणि तुम्हाला काढायला लावतील बिकॉज MCQs 2 मार्कांच्या वर नसणार. So this is regarding finding out resultant and locating it with respect to origin. हा टाइप झाला, हा टाइप झाला. या टाइपचा आपण प्रॅक्टिकल मध्ये कव्हर करणार आहे. One more time, that is type that is equilibrium, but before that I will give you one more example to solve for this and then we will switch to equilibrium. Will it be okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
थांबा आता मी प्रॉब्लेम देते तुम्हाला. पॅरलल फोर्स. I will draw the figure, you just draw that. Okay. So in this case, a plate is given. Actually, this is problem for equilibrium of parallel space force system, where weight of the plate is given as 250 Newton, which will act through centroid of the plate. This is your plate which is lying on XZ plane, and it is tied with the help of these three cables A, B and C. So they will carry tensions TA, TB and TC respectively. From these values of distances, you can find out coordinates for points A, B and C. And you can say that your W will be acting in the downward direction, which will be minus J. Can you try to solve this problem? It is asked to find out tension TA, TB and TC if weight of the plate is 250 Newton. Can you at least try?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Take 5 minutes time, just think about it, then we will discuss and then I will take your attendance. Okay? Yes. Have you tried?
Ma'am,
Yes.
78.
काय येतंय बेटा?
TA 9, sorry ma'am, TA 93.25 कुछ तो आना था मैम.
लेट मी चेक. येस, बरोबर आहे, येत आहे ना.
है मैम
19.75.
7.75
93.
एक
और
मिनिट, एक मिनिट, एक मिनिट. TA is coming out to be 93.75
75.
न्यूटन करेक्ट. TB
78.125.
दोन्ही सेमच येतात, TB आणि TC.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes ma'am,
दोघांचे
78.125.
कोऑर्डिनेट जर बघाल तर जर वेट एक्झॅक्टली सेंटर मधनं डाऊनवर्ड पास होईल तर त्याला बॅलन्स करणारे हे दोन फोर्सेस सेमच येतील. सांगा किती आला?
78.125.
करेक्ट. आर यू गेटिंग दीज व्हॅल्यूज ज्यांनी सॉल्व्ह केलं?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
समजलं का रे बाकीच्यांना काय केलं ते?
नाही
Here you will get 3 equations. 3 unknowns are there. Tension AB is unknown, TB is unknown, and TC is unknown. First equation will be by considering summation Fy, that is TA plus TB plus TC minus W is equal to 0. So your first equation will be W right hand side la jail. It will be equation number 1. Second equation will be for movement, that will be movement of all the forces about OZ will be equals to 0 because plate is in equilibrium. Downward force is taken care by upward tensions. So this will be one equation. And secondly, it will be algebraic sum of movement of all the forces about OX will be equals to 0. So this will be your second and third equation. 3 equations and 3 unknowns. W given आहे आपल्याला 250. So you can calculate it. Is it clear?
ओके मॅम.
सगळ्यांना समजलं का?
Yes, ma'am.
येस मॅम.
Okay. So some more problems I will upload for your practice and understanding of space forces. But फार काही टफ तुम्हाला स्पेस फोर्सेस मध्ये विचारू शकत नाही, त्याच्यामुळे जरा लिमिटेशन्स असतात या प्रॉब्लेम्सला तुम्हाला विचारायला.
मॅम स्पेस फोर्स मध्ये अजून किती बाकी आहे?
एकच टाईप राहायला वाटतं आता तसा.
सेकंड युनिट मध्ये.
सेकंड युनिट मध्ये आता आज आपण थर्ड पार्ट, आता हे तसं पाहायला गेलं तर इक्विलिब्रियम पण तुम्ही बघितलं, म्हणजे तुमचे आता फक्त हा इक्विलिब्रियम ऑफ कॉन्करंट स्पेस फोर्स सिस्टीम राहिलाय पार्ट, विच वी आर गोइंग टू कव्हर अंडर प्रॅक्टिकल सेशन. बाकीचे तिन्ही पार्ट तुम्ही पाहिले, ऍटलीस्ट तुम्हाला समजले. प्रॉब्लेम प्रॅक्टिससाठी मी टाकते. सो नाउ ओनली रिमेनिंग पार्ट फ्रॉम युनिट नंबर 2 इज फ्रिक्शन. So in case of friction there are 3-4 types, पण त्यातले मेनली आपण जे बघतो ते आहे ब्लॉक फ्रिक्शन अँड लॅडर फ्रिक्शन. सो फ्रिक्शनची बेसिक सगळी थेअरी जी की व्हेरी व्हेरी इम्पॉर्टंट फॉर MCQs अँड प्रॉब्लेम्स वी विल कव्हर इन नेक्स्ट लेक्चर, दॅट इज टुमारोज लेक्चर. विल इट बी ओके?
ओके मॅम.
Yes, ma'am.
उद्या आपण फ्रिक्शनची सगळी थेअरी बघू जी की खूप इम्पॉर्टंट आहे MCQs साठी, आणि परवा आपण लॅडरचं आणि ब्लॉकचे 1-2-4 प्रॉब्लेम्स पाहू.
मॅम मग आई मध्ये अख्खा सेकंड युनिट येणार आहे की जेवढा
येस
होईल
बेटा,
तेवढा?
अख्खा पूर्ण होणारच आहे आपला जोपर्यंत. तुमचा सेकंड युनिट संपतोच आहे जोपर्यंत.
ओके मॅम.
ओके, या वीक मध्ये तुमचा सेकंड युनिट पूर्ण संपतो आणि आपली आई 5 तारखेला आहे गेस.
येस मॅम.
त्याच्यामुळे त्याच्या आधी आपलं सगळं संपतं सिलेबस सेकंड युनिट. ओके चलो फिर. अरे अटेंडन्स राहिली ना आज, 1 मिनिट. येस, रोल नंबर 1 2 दिसत नाही रे आजही, पण कुठे गेला रे बाबा? 2 आणि 6 सारखेच अब्सेंट राहायला लागले. Who is not there? 3-4.
Present, ma'am.
Pranjal 3. Are you there? Chat box ला टाकलंय. 5-6.
Present, ma'am.
6 is not there. 7, 8,
Present,
Present,
ma'am.
ma'am.
9, 10,
Present, ma'am.
Present, ma'am.
11, 12,
Present, ma'am.
Present, ma'am.
13, 14,
Present, ma'am.
15, 16,
Present, ma'am.